In your 30s, money isn't about math, it's about mindset. In this episode, I'm sitting down with a financial expert and real people who've learned, sometimes the hard way, how to build wealth, confront debt, and start investing intentionally. Whether you're behind, breaking even, or building something big, this episode is here to remind you it's not too late and you're not too far gone. Hey, and welcome back to Talk 30 to Me. This episode, it's for the I should be further ahead by now crowd. For everyone whose relationship with money has been messy, mysterious, or marked by fear, today we're talking about financial wisdom, not just saving, not just investing, but building a future that feels secure and aligned. Let's talk about breaking generational curses, owning our financial stories, and finally putting our money where our growth is. All right, so let's talk facing the numbers. First up, we have Chanel Parks, a financial planner who's been guiding folks through financial wake-up calls for over a decade. Chanel, welcome.
Thank you, Robert. I love helping people move from fear to freedom when it comes to money.
All right, so let's talk about it. Why is this decade so crucial for financial planning?
Because this is the decade when most people are earning more, spending more, and if we're not careful, bleeding more. Compound interest is either working for you or against you. The earlier you start, the lighter the load.
And how do you start if you're behind?
You start with truth. Open every account. Look at your numbers without shame. That's step one.
We also have Malik Thomas with us, who made a serious pivot from heavy spending to strategic investing. Malik, welcome.
Happy to be here. I always say, I went from Jordans to joint accounts.
Okay, I feel that. So what woke you up financially? Like, what did it take?
I had $3,000 worth of shoes and $0 in savings. That realization hurt my pride, but it saved my life.
I can understand where you both are coming from, specifically to the point you were making, Chanel, specifically about if we're not careful, we're bleeding more. I know for me, I did not go into my own financial planning intentionally. I kind of maybe lucked up into it would be the most accurate description. But I also came to it a little bit late in life. I was relatively responsible financially. So like I, had an apartment before I graduated high school. I needed to get out of that house and be on my own. So, I've been working since I was 12. So I've had money. I've been paying taxes for quite a long time. So it was nothing for me to elevate and to do my best to either not spend all of my money, or when I realized that either one check or one job or whatever the case may have been wasn't working, to either get another job that paid more money or get a better job that paid more money or get another job. And that's why I am currently working 4 positions at the present moment. 2 full-time and 2 part-time. They all inform each other, but they are not expressly the same thing, but they are very closely related. So I am not exerting too much effort with that particular skill set. But I will say one of the things that I did first, because I don't even think I got, to your point, Chanel, about compound interest, I don't even think I got into that fully until I started using different apps specifically for my stock portfolios. But before that, I did, I think the smartest move that I made was switching from a bank to a credit union. So I did that first. So, because Chase and what was that? Was it First Independence? I can't remember. And whoever else I had, I have never been I and my money have never been so poorly mistreated than when I was with a bank. I have had better customer service, better opportunities for use of resources, better access to use of resources. When I switched to a credit union, now that might not necessarily be the best move for everyone, but that was a very simple and easy way to elevate the reach of my finances is by leaving a bank. That was kind of my first step because the banks were charging me fees to put my money in, fees to take my money out. Just like I don't need a tote bag or a fucking toaster. I want the money that I have at the bank to still be in the bank so that I could use it for the things that I need to use my money on and for. But I will say specifically for me in my 30s, switching to a credit union was super helpful. I don't have a lot of debt with the exception of some student loans for school. I paid off the first degree. The second one did not incur much of a fee, but now working on this third one as I am in a very much not funded program. So everything is out of pocket. That's where one of my current positions comes from. Like they pay, but I did have to pay initially, and there are other fees that I've had to take care of. So, don't really have much in the way of debt outside of student-related expenses. So I'm not doing anything with that until either I am not in school anymore or these degrees start to pay for themselves. And they have yet to do that. But I say all of that to say that making use of the different resources that the credit union offers helped me to not spread what I am making too thin. Like I can cover the necessary expenses and the things that I'm basically storing up time for. I can get to those things a little bit later. But I do recall, and I won't say that it was my, what did we say, Malik, it wasn't really a pivot, I'll say, but really just made me aware of sort of the power of money, recognizing how much I can do with little, and not so much focusing on necessarily making more money, but definitely making the money that I had go much further. Is identifying what my spending habits were when I was very much in a manic state and just spending just because I was in a store in front of some gum or some candy or some shoes or a shirt or a hat or socks or whatever it was. Granted, at some point in time, these might be necessary things, but in that specific moment that I made where I typically made the purchase, it was not. But really understanding what my spending habits were. To your point, Malik, about, in your work, sort of making that move from heavy spending to strategic investing. Because I started off again with the credit union and your regular accounts. I had opened up a vacation account so that my trips were more intentional. I still spent outside of that, but it got me started. It at least gave me something, especially if it was a cruise or something where I was not paying in full. I was funding that account so that I could take my trips specifically from that account. Then I also opened up a CD or certificate of deposit. I put a nice little chunk in there and let the interest. I also found that specifically with credit unions, or at least the one that I'm at most, had a had an increase of more than like 1%. Most banks, if you have an account, you leave your money in the account, the most it's ever going to accrue is about 1%. So by credit union, depending on the type of account that you open, it could be anywhere between 3 and 7%. So I opened the certificate of deposit CD account under a program that they have here. And like that has been helpful. And I've done, I think, 3 or 4 revolutions of it, where you let it go all the way until its date of maturation. Sometimes, I don't think every time, but sometimes I might take what it has, the interest that it has made. I will take that and put that into my checking account, and I will leave the rest in there to accrue again, or the other way around. I will leave the interest that it accrued in there to keep going and build up, and then I'll take the rest out. So I know for, excuse me, I know for 1 year I used my CD specifically for my mother's birthday. I had taken her out of town to New Orleans for a week for her birthday. So, that paid for flights, that paid for lodging, all of the activities, all of the food. So, it for me, it helped to, I like to believe that I'm a very organized person, but I can become very disorganized very quickly. So I like to use accounts in this way to keep monies from touching. I was not good at the envelope method, because I don't know if you know this, but you can open envelope. They're just paper. There is nothing that would irritate you about opening up the envelope and taking money out of there. I had even considered, but I did not follow through on the young lady on social media who makes the little pouches, the plastic pouches for you to put your money in, and they're labeled. I had even considered the thought of that. Maybe not buying them, but just going and getting some sandwich bags and writing on the, I'm all about a deal over here. But that also just seemed extra. And the money is starting off in the account anyway. So, my problem sometimes stems from being able to see it, because I can see it. Now the possibilities for what to do with it become endless because it's in front of me and I can see it. But I found keeping it in the account, and especially specifically how my credit union does, like those ancillary accounts, so like your vacation club, your CD, and all the other things, you can't just withdraw from them willy-nilly. They have restrictions on them. So those restrictions help me stick to my goal a little bit more easily. And then I elevated at one point from the different accounts inside of the credit union to adding like outside cards, like Cash App, Zelle at one point, and what's that other stupid one? I'm forgetting the name of it. But anyway, and while I make use of Zelle, I don't necessarily keep funds. No, Venmo. I don't use Venmo. I don't use Zelle as much. I use it to receive money from people, but not necessarily to send it. But then, like, I started specifically using the most financial apps like Mint and the like use the 50-30-20 budget. I like to use the 70-20-10. And while it might seem like it's less money being, saved, in my mind, I'm putting more money towards all the things that I need to pay for. I feel I have a very conservative savings and debt strategy. And then my spending, because the majority of the things that my money is paying for are the fun things, not, necessarily entertainment, but, if I have a home, if I have the internet, if I have water, if I have gas, I'm cooking. Whether I have the event at a place or I invite people over, like, I've got a legit spot with which to do things. So I started using the 70-20-10 budget. And I used to do it slightly more manually, but now I don't do much in the way of writing, but just every time any check comes, and I don't care what kind of check it is. I don't care if it's a check for a project, or if I received a stipend for some acknowledgement or whatever the case is, I apply that 70-20-10 to every dollar to every check that comes into my coffers. And one, it keeps me like on target to to not to not overspend, but then to also recognize when I can be slightly more, I don't even want to say frivolous, but I'm going to slightly more frivolous with my spending, but more so just around things that I want. So, if I go online and I want something and, it's Monday and I know I'm getting paid on Wednesday, I'll wait until Wednesday, right? In some instances, if it's time sensitive, obviously, I will make a choice. Like I said, because I am not in debt. I kind of have that freedom, but then I also walk around this house, and I recognize like I am, which is also a thing that I say to myself, but like I am rich. I am starting to get like my mother in the sense that I will go to the store for something thinking I don't have it and come home and have more than one of it. So it is that sort of I don't know, disengagement from my own inventory that makes me want to be very strategic about my investing so that there are dollars being saved in a variety of capacities, both, I'll say locally, like in my actual bank that I can physically go to. I have a retirement. Well, I have more than one, but I have retirement accounts. Then I have my stock portfolio, which I also have a separate portfolio in my stocks that is for retirement, but I have about four or five different portfolios, including a cash portfolio. So like across the board, there's money being stored up for me, externally through a number of providers. And I think we'll have a little bit of time for this, but external providers. So like I used to start off my sort of, and I had been talking about doing a class with my kids at work about stocks and portfolios using apps, but I used Acorns first, and that initially was a great experience, and then it became an absolute fucking nightmare. And I took my money out of there and put it into Stash, the other account that I was using. So Stash is who I am still with. That is where the fullness of my portfolios are, with the exception of like my actual retirement accounts through my employer. But Stash is where I have, again, conservatively, my cash portfolio. I have a personal one. I have my retirement. I had started one, and I need to double check that because I'm forgetting now. But I had started one for my kids just to have one. But I have to double check if that is still there. But I have 5 different accounts there specifically for my stocks and whatnot. So I really do try to not only be strategic, but very much diversify where my money is at. Because especially with sort of the chaotic times that we are in now, where financial futures are wild, I am trying to consider whether I'm going to do the old school method and pull all of my money out and put it up under the mattress. Well, not really the mattress. I have a safe, but put it in the safe. And when things level out, return to these entities, or just, ride it out. Understanding that, it could get really bad and I could lose everything, but I'm still thinking through that way. But, to your point, because I don't know specifically that I've ever been behind. I have definitely looked at my finances and felt like I went from nothing to everything very quickly and didn't know necessarily how to catch up. But I definitely want to say that taking the time to open every account and look at all of the numbers and do the math, old school, sheet of paper, pen, pencil, write it all down. So it's, tactile and in front of you, and you can really process it, because the specifics about numbers I probably didn't get into until I forget which degree, maybe it was the bachelor's, I can't remember, but and I had taken accounting 2, and I I ended up having to take it through the consortium at another school. So I didn't take it at my actual school. I went to another school to take it. And while I'm grateful that I'm not an accountant, because I don't know how I would get through that life. I was very grateful for a crash course in truly understanding money. How banking works, how not necessarily even financial planning, but I'll just say finances, which is slightly different than just banking. Banking is the storehouse, finances is the use. So yeah, that accounting class, if you've never taken one, while extremely challenging, see if to me, you might be great with numbers, but I'm good with numbers as it pertains to money and some math. But I can get very lost in numbers. But I am grateful specifically for that class, or those classes, because they really helped me understand the practical and personal application of money in the real world. And then even small things. I don't know if you have ever taken a tour, excuse me, to the to the Department of Treasury. That's not the name I'm thinking of, but that's what I'm going to call it, because I know we have one here. And, they take you into the shredding room and show you how they shred old money and all this other stuff. But I think they do a really good job of painting a picture of like what money is tangibly in the real world. And I think it kind of starts with understanding what money is. You can't budget, you can't plan, you can't save if you don't really understand what money is. If your concept of money is just, I do a little something, they give me a little something so I can get a little something, you'll always be, stuck in the cycle where you never have enough, you don't have the things that you need, and, when you lose a job, it takes a minute to find another job. Now, I'm not specifically going to get into the job and career conversation because I have very specific thoughts about that. But I will say, after a certain period of time, and I was kind of already doing it well before my 30s, but after a certain period of time, you realize that I cannot work a job that provides me no benefits. I cannot. Just having a check makes life that much more expensive, because not having benefits means all of the things that you need to survive now are coming out of that check, as opposed to, now one might argue, well, all those things are still coming out of the check and then you still have a portion to take home. But I would argue that your salary or your rate of pay is higher to compensate for that. And then if there's certain employers, there's a match that happens as well, so that you can truly maximize how much you're taking home. Same thing if you work at a place that offers you a health savings account or a flexible spending account, HSA, FSA. It allows you to do more with your money. And I know not everybody has the capacity, the skill set, or the range to get a job that connects them to benefits. But I think that's another, in instances where you can make it happen, that is another excellent way to take a step towards a very solid financial future. And I get some people don't necessarily want to work for anybody else. You want to do your own thing, but understanding that entrepreneurship and just solo ventures as a whole are very costly, very expensive. And despite how we feel, it really does take money in order to make money. And sometimes it's harder, specifically in the beginning. And the beginning could be a year, it could be 10 days, it could be 40 years. For everything to truly get aligned, for your money to really start maximizing the space around you. But here, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back.
This is Woodsy. Not just a brand, a movement, a mindset, a mirror, a place where community meets creativity, where healing meets hustle, and where unapologetic Black excellence gets to speak loud, clear, and free. We build workshops that grow the soul. We tell stories that shift the culture. We host spaces that hold all of you no code switching required. If you ever felt too much, not enough, or stuck in between, Woodsy was built for you. This is radical rest. This is real talk. This is creative power, reimagined. Woodsy. Rooted in truth. Rising in power. Learn more at woodsy.llc and join the journey.
All right, and welcome back. Let's talk from surviving to strategizing. We're joined by Ashley Monroe, a single mom of 2 who recently bought her first home. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. I still wake up and smile when I look at my name on that mortgage.
I do that a little too, but I got my house for a completely different reason, but I do smile when I think of the fact that I am actually in a house, because I said for a very long time that I had no interest in houses. But anyway, can you share how you turned your finances around? I think you have a really interesting story.
It started with honesty. I printed out every bank statement and highlighted every dollar I was wasting. I had to stop performing wealth and start planning it.
When you think about all the things that you tried out, all the resources that you used, like what helped the most?
A budget that worked for me, not Instagram. $50 a month toward savings was still a win.
All right, Chanel, how do you help clients like Ashley build sustainable plans?
We start with values. Your money should reflect what matters to you, not just what everyone else says you should do.
Yeah. Budgeting isn't punishment. It's permission to stop spending on stuff you don't care about.
I think that's important because, schools don't necessarily teach about finances or budgeting or money for that matter. They teach you how to add and subtract and multiply and divide, but not really about what money is and how to make it matter. And especially with, sort of the onslaught of messages in current times about starting young and how important it is to instill certain skill sets in our youth when they are younger. I find it interesting that, money is the thing. And I know why, but money is the thing that will carry you through life. It is a supremely necessary thing in this day and age because everything is at a cost or comes with a fee. So to make it through life without any sort of intentional budget could lead you to believe that budgeting is punishment or restrictive or, somehow lessens what little you do have with which to do something with. But I really like the point that you made, Chanel, about money reflecting what matters to you. And I think that came, I think I'm still figuring that out, but I think that came with, maybe compliments about things. And it was less about wearing things that maybe others weren't wearing, but were still fashionable. But it was identifying my own style, my own sense of self, how I would prefer to look when dressed up or dressed down. And that sort of curtailed my finances toward and around very specific things. I don't consider myself to be a sneakerhead by any stretch of the imagination. When I buy shoes, I wear my shoes, but I also clean my shoes. So if they ever look clean or new or nice, that's not by mistake, but it's sort of me, again, not a sneakerhead, not going to sell my shoes. I'm not treating them like collector's items. And before I had my foot surgery, I was fucking these shoes up anyway. So I just got shoes because, they looked nice or I wanted them, mainly because they looked nice and I wanted them. But like the comments I was getting about certain things, and I'm just picking shoes for the sake of this example, but the compliments that I would get about things, like especially which I'm not so much doing anymore, but when I was really, 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 really taking care of the things that I purchased so that they would last long, and specifically with the shoes, specifically with the shoes, buying shoes that I like, I, generally don't necessarily like the same thing that everyone else likes, or maybe I do, but the colorway that I like is different. Like everybody else is getting, your standard colorways for things, but I didn't always allow myself, because of certain perceived restrictions when growing up, and they were probably there, but I definitely sensed them more than I allowed them to be enforced upon me. But, I still operated safely, within like acceptable colors and whatnot. But I've allowed myself to enjoy a slightly funkier color shoe now. But anyway, the comments that I received about things helped me really understand, like, maybe less about what matters to me, but more so what I'm known for. So when shoes were my thing, which they're kind of my thing now, but not so much, because my feet are gigantic. To me. But it used to be shoes. I think the running thing right now is smell. My my cologne, oil, essence game is I would argue it's pretty good, especially at the beginning of the day. But if I've been working all day, not that I don't, because I do, but you can tell I've worked a hard day. I've worked today. But, sort of establishing all those things that mean something to me and making sure that I have money for those. I think as I've elevated a little bit more, it has been travel. So I would argue that maybe like a portion, or, just further breaking down my spending, that I've afforded more time, effort, energy, and funds to travel because I have, added travel in the mix. So in addition to smelling good and having something nice on my feet, relatively dressed, comfortable, but nice. I'm always going to err on the side of comfort. Check out those baby pictures. I was always in sweats or something. Super into comfort. But I'm also going to travel quite a bit, which, road trips, train travel, actual flights, international travel. Yes, your boy has a passport, but making sure I had funds for all of those things, for each, venture or adventure that I'm on, that I have the money for those things. But I would say for anybody listening, in whatever, because I also feel like it's something that you can't force. Like I know just some things that when I was 30 and 31 that I was trying to do, it just was not time to do. Everything I attempted in the way of it just did not work. And you could say that for a number of things, because when I graduated from high school, I was not 30, but when I graduated from high school, I had gone to college. It seemed like a natural step. It proved to be a very unnatural step, an extreme misstep. So I made the choice to stop. Like, working was what I needed to do, so I did work. I was fortunate enough to be in a beautiful time period before whatever is happening right now, where the skill set that I had developed by that point, so in my early 20s, allowed me a very fortuitous, like, employment history. Like, I was gainfully employed, I had benefits, like I was doing all right. Definitely, coming into the 30s, those things kind of maintained, but whereas maybe in my 20s, I didn't really care about where it was that I was working, I was slightly more concerned about where it is I was working, but in relation to the things that I felt defined me. I wanted to work someplace that had an excellent holiday schedule on its own, so that when I took time, mainly for travel, or even if I was just staying at home for a staycation, I was getting the most out of this. I always want to work someplace where I'm getting the most out of the experience. I don't want to work someplace where they're getting more out of me than I'm getting out of them. This has to be slightly uneven. I'll give you 55-45. But you're the 45. I'm the 55. I'm getting what I need. But again, when it was time, things happen, but I do believe in building the skill set before you can use it. In the same way, such as the degree program that I'm in now, or just how I've used education over the years, because I've definitely applied for and gotten jobs that I was not qualified for because I had the skill set and I had been developing it. And when the time came, even though the position was not as written, made for me, like that space opened up for me, pun intended. So, but I like that idea of, your money reflecting what matters to you. And sort of like the setup for that. Having, I won't even say the right job, but a fair place of employment that offers you a little extra something so that you have sort of an incentive to do. Because, working at a place where you only have the check, you have no benefits, and I can just imagine there's a large population, probably even a growing population now, who, have no health care. They don't have a primary care physician. Any and every time something goes wrong, because they do not have the rapport of having a primary care physician, they're always in urgent care or emergency room. And dollar for dollar, I can't even imagine how unsustainable that life is. I know it. I know it is, but I can't even imagine on a personal level, like how that feels to be in a situation where even if it ended up being nothing, you still have to pay for nothing. If you went in, you thought you broke something and it was just a sprain or something that one might argue you could have just fixed at home or waited a day, but you're not a medical professional. You didn't know that. So you go in to be seen. It turns out to be nothing, and you're left with a high bill. And, they have all these, programs and things out now. So, well, I don't want to name them because I do like them, but that let you pay in installments on your purchases and whatnot. And then even, I think in my early 30s, the conversation was around the gig economy. The gig economy. Not everybody was working gainful positions, but it was specifically applied to millennials. But I know a lot of seniors and even younger people who were caught up in the gig economy because that's all anybody was honestly hiring for. Could again deter you financially from a lot of goals and make you settle into some level of complacency because it's just easier to work this gig that you're working, take these hours that they give you because you're free during the day to do bullshit. But I will challenge you financially to stretch yourself a little bit because the world is amazing on the outside of the United States. Like, it's amazing. And I get that. And I don't expressly just mean travel, but just sort of a well-read, well-versed, well-lived, well-experienced life is amazing. Because you never know how much fun something is until you give it a try. Even if you decide to never do it again, you never know how much fun something is until you give it a try. So to your point, Malik, about budgeting is not a punishment. Like, it's permission to stop spending on stuff you don't care about. But quite honestly, until you have the conversation with yourself or are aware enough in your life to know, I don't like this. I don't enjoy this. This is not fun. This is a waste of money. And you make yourself stop spending money on that thing. And you realize, oh, damn, I have all this money left over. Why do I have so much money left over? I was really spending this on that. And then realizing now with this new, essentially, bucket of money, what have I always wanted to do or see or try or experience that now I have the capacity and the resources, to finally do. And I think it's important I'm sorry, I'm learning as I'm talking. Chanel, you were talking about we start with values. I think that's important, and a lot of people get so far away from themselves and caught up in the check to check life that they are forced to live, that understanding specifically themselves and definitely their values and how those relate to how they get money, how they spend money, um, is like very important. Because I saw it on, I mean, I think she was a, I think she was a prostitute, but or it was a clip from a show. But I remember watching something, and a lady was like, like money loves me, money is attracted to me, money wants to be around me, and I have made that my mantra. And I can honestly say that since I've started to just say that, not when I have a deal that's pending or when I'm waiting to find out if some money is coming, but just every day, that is one of my affirmations into the world, that money loves me. Money is attracted to me. Money wants to be around me. When I say from every nook and cranny you can imagine, opportunities find me. I'm also in my ongoing year of yes. So like literally anything that comes, well, not any, but substantive emails that come about opportunities, whether it's a competition to create art or submit an idea for a prize or join this panel for, I don't know, the gift cards or other resources or participate in this thing. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm saying yes to just about everything within reason. Because again, I grew up with old people, so it's nothing for me to say tomorrow is not promised. So as far as exposure and experience and opportunity, like, I don't know if and when any of these things will ever come around again, specifically where I see it. Because I have a lot of stuff going on. My calendar is very full. I don't sleep as much as I could or should. But I also don't want to live life as prescribed, where you work for 50, 60, 70 years, and then you retire and take all of your trips. What vacations you do take through the year are family vacations where you are doing things you probably have no interest in doing, but they are to the benefit of someone else. No, I am not doing any of that. I quite honestly don't give a fuck how you feel about it. Over here, this is my life, and this is how we're doing things. You are welcome to come along. You are welcome to come along. But I'm not asking for your suggestions about anything. That type of shit you do over there. But like over here, specific to the values, now that I am more, again, not forcefully, but just quite naturally and organically understanding what it is that is of importance to me. But I'm also very out of sight, out of mind. So there's some subtlety to this. I do not have the capacity to take on the entirety of the world that I have cultivated, curated, forged relationships with. I really only have the capacity to deal with the people who are in front of me, which at any given moment could be people at work. It could be my family. It could be my friends. It could be strangers on the street. It could be myself. And I am, very much adjusting to whoever happens to be in front of me. It isn't that I've forgotten about anybody or don't care about anybody. I just do not have the capacity to envelop the entirety of my community at the same time. I have to deal with whoever's in front of me. But again, in understanding those values and the way that I safeguard myself with those values and sort of like the plan to achieve things as they relate to those values, I'm just really stuck on that permission. Like I've on this side of everything, I've definitely given myself permission to, because I used to hear, and I mean, I've heard recently, so I know I'm not 100% there yet, but people who I feel care about me love to say to me, like, be yourself. I don't know what the fuck that is. I have definitely had to be things for the pleasure of other people, whether that's, being a good student, being a good son. Not that there was a desire to be a bad son or a bad student, but definitely doing those things that I quite honestly have no idea what myself or who myself is. I think I am a walking reaction to things. I feel at least I guess in this present moment, like myself is not much of a talker despite this medium. Like in my regular life with no deadline, no activity, I could easily be at home and never speak a word, but get so much stuff done. I think the level of performance that we have to do in life drains me so. Um, it I don't know. It feels like it's necessary, but I am very much in conflict with it. But again, and specific to budgeting, I never gave myself permission before to use my money my way. There's a lot of conflict with people who don't have money trying to tell you how you should save and spend your money and what you should use your money on. But I know for me at this stage, I have enough experience to say not only can I work, but I can also travel the world. I can also write. I can also author. I can also that the time limit, because I'm so accustomed to people saying, by an age limit, I want to do this by the time that I'm 30 or, before my 30s, as if these age decades are somehow contained rooms or something, and access to something does not begin until, as opposed to, I'm interested in now. I can look up anything that relates to this now, even if just simply just to know more about it, right? So in conversation, I now have a viewpoint. I now have an idea. You could even say a value or even a plan for this thing. So it isn't, waiting until 30 to become financially stable, but like, especially like when that you're not, that you're not. Every time you want to do something, or every time a concert comes up, you don't have any money and you out here selling Tom, Dick, and Harry to be able to go. And it's like, well, I have to condition my spending to be different because, I have nothing for a rainy day. I have nothing for an emergency. I have nothing if I get sick. I have nothing, for anything last minute. And no offense, but most of you financially in those positions that are living check to check, you are not working for a place where you can get a check early. You get the check when the checks are done. You got to make that thing do what that thing can do. But I know like a number of moves that definitely worked out better for me in my 30s than they did maybe in my 20s was definitely getting a car, definitely getting a house. Because when I got my house, I didn't even get my house for me. I got my house because I have dogs. I was living in an apartment, and there was a pet fee when I moved in, but I didn't have dogs then. I got dogs a little bit, maybe like a couple of years after I had started living there, and I had gotten the dogs without checking with the landlord to see if anything had changed with the pet fee and all of that stuff. So I just happened, after I got my girls, I just happened to go into the office and ask him, and he was like, "Oh no, we got rid of that. So if you had an animal, your animal is grandfathered in, but no new animals are coming into the space." And when I say my girls were like, because the office was the next room over from my apartment, because I was on the first floor. So when I say my dogs were in my fucking apartment, when he told me this, they were there. They were already there. So I was like, ooh. So I started looking for houses immediately. So let's say that was around July 19th. By the end of August, we had a house. My girls needed a yard. I just figured they were going to be, far more rambunctious than any other animal that I've ever had. And plus I got sisters, so, I knew if I got another animal, I was going to get two. I didn't know I was going to luck up and be able to get sisters or brothers or siblings, a brother and a sister. They actually had a brother who I should have got, but that's for another day. But like that was my, now you might think that makes entirely no sense. And I have definitely grown to love my house, make use of my house in different ways, cultivate and curate different spaces for different things. Um, but the work and the upkeep of a house, I had no interest in doing, but I have found extreme pleasure in having, as again, sort of a resource to sort of house money, I guess. Because in addition to my house, like I own everything in it. So, I own a refrigerator, I own a stove, I own a washer and a dryer, I own a snow thrower, I own a leaf blower, I own a chainsaw, my favorite. Uh, I own a dishwasher, I own several TVs, I own computers. Like, I own these things. Um, and granted, this that really isn't to say anything, but it's to suggest I value having not a house, but a home. I want people that I invite over, my guests, to come over and feel welcomed in the space, because one, it is not crowded, but it is, I'll say, filled with things. You can see remnants of past experiences, opportunities for future experiences, but like that is my value. So I curate my budget, my funds, my resources to make that happen. So like I really want to make the I don't know I can't think of the word right now, but an impact with this word, like permission, because I think that's really, because like budgeting is a permission, but it's far more grand than just, putting $25 in an account with consistency. But it's all toward a goal. It is all for a goal. So like, what is the goal? You're doing all of this work, whatever that work is, in order to get this money. You've gotten the money. Now what? Like, is the money what you need in order to get the stuff, in order to impress people because you don't feel you have a place in the world? Is the money for you to establish what is your space? Whatever that means. And I'm not necessarily even talking about like a job or, a house or an apartment or a car or anything like that. But like, what is your space? I have siblings, but I didn't grow up with them. So when I think of my space compared to what I would imagine they would think of their space, these are two very different spaces. My space is extremely quiet because all that noise is out in the world. But my home is curated in such a way that the shit that I have to suffer outside is not in here. Not here at all. I could be in my house, no disrespect to the lives that were lost during the pandemic. And aside from the fact that I was classified as an essential worker and did not get to be at home for a long period of time, if I was not classified as an essential worker, the way that I could stay in my home 3 whole years, and I would not have run out of things to do. I would not in any way, shape, or form have been bored. It just wouldn't have happened. I have curated my home to have quite a number of projects, some of which I'm only recently getting to, but still, a number of projects. So, but what is the plan? What is money? Like, I mean, granted, it's just a piece of paper that's dyed that we've given a lot of meaning and value to, but it is used in an upgraded form of bartering to get things, to get rid of things. But like, what is money to you? And I think that's important before you start to establish your values, and then giving yourself permission to spend or not to spend for the greater good of the whole, in like all the things you care about. But money is not everything, and it can definitely corrupt people. But it does have a necessary quality to move things forward. But you do have to understand like what those things are and which way is forward. I think this is a good spot for a break. So let's take a break and we'll be right back.
At Woodsy, we don't just write books. With the help of our publishing house, Hazelwood Press, we release blueprints. We print power. We publish purpose. From self-help to soul work, essays to exploration, we're celebrating new releases, timeless re-releases, and this October, our very first novel, Bedlam, drops. Stories that shift culture. Books that build legacy. Voices that deserve to be heard. Got a book in you? Want to tell your story your way? Let's make it real. Visit woodsy.llc to learn more about our publishing support, author services, and how to join our growing community of storytellers. Woodsy, rooted in truth, rising in power, writing the next chapter with you.
All right, let's talk investing. Welcome back. Where do people get it wrong, and how can they start right? Where do people get it wrong, and how can they start right?
People think you need thousands. You don't. You need consistency and time. Start with a retirement account, even if it's $25 a month.
Robinhood taught me investing, but reading taught me wisdom. Start with apps, but build with books and mentors.
Yes, that's a good one. I'm still working on the mentor bit myself. I have not been lucky in the mentor area. I have a mentor. I'll say politically. I have a political mentor. But professionally, I don't have one and would love one. But I haven't been lucky in that area, but I will agree. I learned by doing. So I became a self-published author because I was looking into self-publishing or going the traditional route. And my very first guide, I don't really call it a book, but my very first guide, the very first thing that I authored, I did the process myself, and I figured if I could do it, I could teach other people how to do it. So I basically did a bunch of research for Amazon KDP and others, and I figured out, the limitations with Amazon KDP, the limitations for doing it the traditional way, and the fact that at that time anyway, I wasn't writing anything that was big in the way of marketability. So I didn't want my costs to be so high that I didn't make a profit on any of the work. But I also wanted to understand the industry in a specific way that I was never going to understand it as long as other people were doing the work for me. Because I can definitely, leave this experience and go the traditional route. But having this helped me understand, the distribution channels and funnels, setting prices, working with libraries. So I will agree, applications taught me how to do things. Reading and having a mentor helped to sort of solidify that information, but that fell in line with how I learn generally. I learn by doing. So I'm not necessarily the best student in that sense because I can't, that's why I prefer online classes, but I can't just sit in the classroom having you talk at me and show me things. I need to do something. I grew up with the ideology of apprenticeships, even though I've never honestly had one or been a part of one, but it was sort of a big thing in my reading and learning growing up. Just there was a period of time where that's how we passed skills down, was through apprenticeships. Somebody would be your apprentice and you would show them how to do this work, and they would do it essentially as a learned process, but step by step based on how it is you showed them. And I hate we kind of got away from that because I think a lot more people would be employed and have gainful careers if we did return back to that sort of modeling. But yeah, apps are super helpful, especially now, especially if you can get to the point where maybe you learn from one app, but it has deficiencies, and then you create an app that resolves those. I think we're definitely in that space now. But yes, apps definitely got me started in ways that interfacing with people and even books did not get me started. Apps let me put my money where my growth is and sort of hit the ground running, make those mistakes, and then go back with books and mentors to either affirm the lessons that I learned or find new ways to, because I'm all about simplification, to simplify how one goes about this. Not trying to cut any corners, but I'm trying to simplify. If traditionally it was 15 steps, but simplify it for what is necessary, it's 8, I will definitely start with the 15. But once I acknowledge that it really only takes these 8 steps, when I am sharing this information with others, I am sharing the 15. 15, just so you understand in full. But 8 when you're ready. Once you get these 8, you've got it. Big proponent in that. Now, last question. What's one thing you wish you learned about money earlier? What's one thing you learned about money, you wish you learned about money earlier?
That I deserve to know how money worked. Nobody taught me, but I had to teach myself so my kids could learn it younger.
And your advice for someone starting late or maybe not as early as they could have?
You're not late. You're just showing up now, and that's always the right time.
I think that's important because we are fed a lot of misinformation as it relates to money and savings and banking and finances. And I had written a post not that long ago, specifically speaking about another book that I am writing. But it's essentially authored to people who are living check to check, and the idea that, budgeting will save them or fix all of their problems. And, if you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money. Saving money is not going to do anything. Budgeting is not going to do anything, because I would argue that some of the poorest people are some of the best budgeters. Like, they make what little they do receive count in a number of different ways. And through many different things, be it disability or whatever, they are not able to make any more than what it is they have. But I would definitely argue that there is some point of entry in financial planning, regardless of how much money you have coming in. Because even if the best you can save in a year is $300, that is still worth it. $100, that is still worth it. If you put $25 in an account and it accrues no interest, and it is still there at the end of whatever the period of time is, I still count that as a win. So I don't want you to listen to this and assume nobody recognizes or acknowledges your specific situation, because even if you do not have the capacity to take on any more work, or because of education or other barriers, you can't make any more money, you don't have the capacity to find another job, maybe you even think that your skill set is rather isolated, I can only do this one thing, and only this place has this one thing that I can do. Any effort you make to lean or align more closely with your values and give your permission to wield your funds in the way that you need to wield your funds, so that you are living an imaginatively creative life, I really want you to do that, regardless of being in the 30s. But I know in the 30s, as always, especially like now, that's all. I don't know if any of you listeners hear it that way either, but that's all I hear is people saying, oh, I want to have this done by the time I'm 30, or when I'm 30, that's when I'll focus on this. And you can start now. You can start learning about, practicing with, challenging yourself, gaining more information about a system or a process now, because you never know how things are going to change for you in the future. You never know what you're going to want later, that because of your lack now, you don't think you can have, but your circumstances might change, the world around you might change, access to said thing might change, but preparation is key. Not preparation age, but, maybe depending on what you got going on, but preparation is key. So I think that was a very solid point. It's okay if you're just showing up to the party now, because anytime you come is the right time. Whatever it is you can do out of all of the options available for, not just increasing your wealth, but increasing your capacity to be able to respond to or handle things. You are never late. You are always on time. So real quick, I want to thank my guests for today. Chanel, Ashley, Malik, thank you so much for contributing to our conversation. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Ever wanted to build new skills on your time, your terms, your vibe? Say less. Woodsy workshops are finally here. From creative storytelling to real-life skill building, Woodsy is your new home for bold, unapologetic learning. Our flagship series, Kiss My Ass, Unsolicited Advice for the Soul and the Systems, is now live. This ain't your average course. We're talking truth-telling, self-reflection, and designed to shake the table and set it. And soon, our Woodsy Journalism Project drops made for truth seekers, culture shifters, and everyday storytellers ready to use their voice with purpose. Whether you're leveling up, healing forward, or just curious to try something new, Woodsy has a workshop for you. Visit www.woodsy LLC to explore, enroll, and evolve. Woodsy, where soul meets skill.
All right, thank y'all for tuning in. Remember, you don't have to be rich to be ready. You just need to be real with yourself. Start where you are. Start messy. Start small. Just start. And remember, wealth isn't just a number. It's a mindset. Again, big thanks to Chanel, Malik, and Ashley for reminding us that financial freedom isn't reserved for the elite. It's possible for anyone willing to learn, shift, and try again. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye.